Hello everybody, this is Draco Gaming coming to you for another video on Empire 4 Kingdoms. So today I am covering the Blade Coast event in a bit more detail. So as you can see, I'm already currently in the event and I have almost all of my tents in my camp at level 4, which at the moment gives me 1,390 troop capacity in Blade Coast, and my morale is at 100. The attack bonus is at 43% over the base. So I'm going to leave the event and I'm going to take you through what I generally do when I first start the event to set my camp up and everything. One moment. Okay, so now I'm going to re-enter the event like so, and now I am going to begin my upgrades and everything. So first thing I generally do is I send more resources over. Now, something I've come to notice which is really weird, you don't need to send all the way to the right till the bar will be full, because for whatever reason, as you'll see in a moment, it'll still fill it up if you're a bit below it if you do it right. It's very odd, but it is what it is. Okay, so as you can see, I'm expanding the walls. I expand the bottom left corner first because that will allow me to do what I always do for organization, which is move my tents like so. I do 6 columns of tents, and then in a moment I will show you the other section of the camp, how I have that organized. So I'm going to move all this. So what I do is I organize my camp basically to maximize the efficiency of like how many troops you can hold with a reasonable amount of food left as well, and also have a good amount of morale, meaning attack bonus. Now, something I have told people in the past is I personally recommend using the demon and deathly horror troops in this event once you get to the master level 1 and 2. Master 1, it's not quite as big a deal because it's not the toughest, but on Master 2, I would highly recommend, at least once you start getting past the first couple of enemies, using more of the demon and deathlies than other troops, because the added strength will be invaluable to what you're trying to do, which is to complete the event. So as you can see, I do 6 columns of tents, and then you may wonder where my hunter's camp is gonna go. It's gonna go all the way in the top corner. I'm not going to move it at the moment. So then I do a single column of storehouses after the 6 columns of tents, and then what I'm going to do is move all of the banners over to against the right wall, because the pennants, because that is where I always have them. I have them right against this wall. Come on, thank you. And so let's see. I'm going to do and then I'm going to place the ones that I stored. And then, so this is the basic setup I use all the time for my camp. I generally do the six columns of tents, then one column storage, one, and then the five columns between the storehouses and main your big tent will be the big morale items like the drill grounds or field kitchens, and you'll basically fill up the entire space with that. So the first thing like I said, the first thing I do is I generally expand the walls a bit so I can get this organization started. But then my next top priority is maxing out the storage, which if you do the setup that I use, that maxes out at 78,000 of each resource, which is a good amount. And then I upgrade the ship. I max the ship. So what I'm going to do right now, I am going to finish moving all of these tents over, and then I'm going to expand this section of the wall right where my mouse is first so that I can get the storehouses all placed. And then I will start moving troops over. Once I have that done, I generally do not move troops over until after I have the storage maxed and the ship upgraded a bit, because that way I don't starve my troops on accident by not paying attention, because I send over troops with the thought that, oh, I've got 78,000 food. Oh, no, I've only got like 30,000 because I didn't max the storage. So that's why my priority when I go, one of the first things I do for my priority is increasing the storage as much as I can. So, I want you, oh. So, now my storage is 48,000, and now I'm going to send more resources over. So, like I said, there is a tax for sending resources over, but you don't generally need to send all the way to fill the bar on the right, because like I only sent where it would, and it was saying I would have 22,000 of wood and stone, but I have 31,000 because for whatever reason it does that. So I personally do not believe that it is actually 50% tax like it leads you to believe, that it's more along the lines of a 25% tax, which still isn't a small amount, but it's not as much as half of your resources. It's more a third or a quarter of what you're sending, which makes it significantly easier to complete the events, being able to send more resources over at a time. So I push the wall out right here as far as it will go, so that will allow me to now have the 78,000 storage. And then I will send more resources over after I upgrade the ship once. And now I'm going to start the full process of upgrading the camp to max. I do not think I'll be able to. I will have the time to include a full upgrade of the camp in today's video. However, I will show as much of the upgrading as I can for organization. I personally don't recommend getting your tents. Once you will have 71 total tents once this is all said and done. I recommend not getting all of them like above level 2 other than the starting ones. If you want more troops, then you can do the 3 and 4. However, if you're gonna have the maximum troop count, I realized that it will not work the best if you're using 1,400 of the Demon and Deathly Horrors, simply because of the fact that, well, they eat a lot. And with only 78,000 food as storage, that's gone in about 15 hours. So unless you can feed them constantly and pay attention really well to the food in Blade Coast, I recommend going with about 700 of the horror troops, because that will be enough for 2 waves of attack on the bigger enemies in Blade Coast. And the one biggest thing to note in Blade Coast, your commander has no strength. It is a blank commander, and there's nothing that the player can do to change that. It is the default attack commander is a 0/0 with no effects. And the reason I say to send horrors, I will show in a moment, I will show at a later point, is because once you start getting to the really difficult, really far portions of Master 2 and the late stages of Master 1, it becomes incredibly impractical to attack anything other than the towers themselves, because the pirate convoys have about 2,000, have an insane number of the troops. Granted, they're attack troops, so they don't have the best defense strength, but there's still a significant number of them in the courtyard where your commander is a 0/0, which is very painful troop-wise. If you can afford the troops to do that constantly, go ahead. But I'm making this guide is for everyone, and not just for the people who can buy and get infinite troops. It's so that it's the efficiency guide on the most efficient way that I have found for this event to be completed. So I am currently placing more morale. So I have a system for how I place my stuff. I place it row by row, and as I go. So now I have 315 storage, or 315 troops that I can house here. That's not enough for a full attack on a later camp yet, because those are 320. So I'm going to place one more row of tents and send more resources over and max the ship out, and then I'm going to start sending some attacks. For the purpose of the video, I'm going to use rubies to speed up the first couple attacks because they're short times, so it won't be incredibly ruby expensive. But I am simply placing these last couple tents, and then I will start showing more what to do. The biggest thing I want to make clear for Blade Coast, I recommend 50% range, 50% melee for troops. If as best as you can, send half and half. That because the later pirates, they're tough, but they're generally around 50% of each. So it makes it pretty easy to come up with the strategy to do it, because you just have to send half and half. So like I'm sending all horrors over right now, but that's because I'm only gonna have 350 of them there right now, which is not a whole lot. So I am actually going to upgrade a couple of these tens just so that I can get that number up to an even multiple of 10. I'm going to upgrade all 5 of these once to level 2. So the maximum troop count you can have in this camp with every single tent, not using the big tents at level 4, you will have 1,420 attack troops in this castle if you max it all out. Now, that is why I said I do not recommend using all horrors if you're going to do that, because of the fact that the sheer food consumption would be incredibly draining on your resources. Okay, gotta send more over. That's fine. I prepared for that. And now the ship is maxed, and now I'm going to start sending more resources over to finish up with stuff. So generally, I generally send up to about the 65,000 mark if I'm really low, because that fills it up pretty nicely. Ooh, that's a low attack bonus actually. I need to put more. I am not happy with that 26% on the master version. That is scary how low that is. I'm just gonna place 5. This is probably going to end up being one of my longer videos, simply for the fact that I want to be able to go as in depth as I possibly can on the efficient ways to do this event. So on normal difficulty, you don't already have 260 space to attack. You have probably 60. So see, like I said, the enemy is roughly 50% melee, 50% range. So I will do this, and then that, and then 50-50. And now I will use rubies to speed it up, and that's really good losses for the starters. So that's basically the gist of what you do. The only differentiating factor that would exist is if you were to say spend rubies on the decoration, on the morale, instead of building the free ones, the ones that don't cost rubies. That would vastly increase your morale, allowing you to have the higher troop count. You could upgrade your hunter camp at level 10. It provides a 100% food consumption reduction, basically making your troops eat 0. You could get large tents, which will basically, each tent will give you at level 4 10 more or 12 more troops than a small tent. But again, you'd have to be mindful of your food. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this was informative and helpful to as many people out there as possible. And I want to end on a single note that there is more than one master version of Blade Coast. For those who do not already know, there are 2. There is the one I am on, which is Masters 1, and then there's Masters 2, which once you hit Masters 2, I personally recommend hitting the Kraken at the end a bunch, because it gives about 6,000 or 7,000 pearls and over 240,000 coin. And if you send the proper troops for the Kraken, it's range in wave 1 always. If you send the right troops, you lose maybe 80 or 90 and 240,000 coin gain. That's worth it. Well, anyway, thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it and it was helpful, and I will see you guys next time.